Okay, this is part 2. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some of the images we created earlier in part 1, and we're going to save 3 different images and set them up in our site using Dreamweaver. So let's start by the 3 images we're going to save are going to be the images for the top header section, which include this section right up here, the content section directly beneath that, and the outer body section, which is those side pieces. We're going to save those as one image. So probably a couple different ways to do this, but let's just go by selecting that top area. So I'm going to use my marquee tool. I've got snap to grids on, or snap to guide, so it kind of just pops into place. It's not going to be off, right? And I'm just going to do a simple edit, copy merged. Now the difference between doing copy and copy merged is that copy merged will copy every layer that you see, regardless of what layer you're on. So I don't have to worry about coming over here and turning these layers on and off, like this watermark layer or whatever. So I can, in fact, maybe we'll keep that in there, yeah? No. Okay. Yeah, either way, it doesn't matter. So let's copy this piece, edit, copy merged, and let's just put it in its own file here and do file new, click OK, paste it in, file, save for web, and let's make this a JPEG. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this out to my desktop, okay, because this is going to be where I'm going to organize my files here. So I'll just call this today, well, I should call it Flying Orbs, yeah? Alright, and inside my Flying Orbs folder, I'm going to create a folder called Images, and that's where I'm going to save this top piece. So I'm going to name it Header. Alright, so now I have my header JPEG image. Right, go back to my original Photoshop file, and now I'm going to select the content graphic area, which is going to be the background graphic of the content div. Alright, so all I need to do is make sure I go all the way down to the end to cover up, to include all of that image that's in there. Edit, copy merged, file new, click OK, paste that in there and save that for the web. File, save for web, JPEG, that's fine, save, and I'm going to call this one content. Makes it easy to recognize going forward. Alright, back to my Photoshop file, and I have one more image to save, and that's the entire background for the body section, which is all of this. Now, with that piece selected, I don't need the flying orbs as part of this image, and I don't need these little pieces in the middle, right? So I could do one of a couple things. I could turn those layers off, okay, or I can create a layer that kind of covers up that area. So now, the reason for that is the least amount of pixel information you have, the smaller your file size is going to be. So a lot of times, and now I can leave these in there as well. That's not going to hurt anything. Let's go ahead and let's say I had a lot of imagery in there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new layer just to cover that stuff up, right? And so if I don't want any pixel information, I'm going to go ahead and select that middle section right here, and I'm just going to paint over that with a white color. Okay, so now I've got that painted in there. So then when I choose my marquee tool, that's the only imagery that's actually going to be shown that we're going to be using applied to the body tag of our web design layout. Alright, so let's copy that, edit, copy merged, file new, click OK, and paste that in there. Now what this is also going to do is it's going to help us see that where we might have a mistake, because if it was black and we left it in there, we might not notice that it's 1 pixel off or something along those lines. So by having the big giant white section in the middle, we can also see that it's lined up properly. So you'll see this when we go forward. So let's do a file, save for web, okay, save that image, and I'm going to call this just BG for background. Alright, so now I have my 3 images inside my images folder, and now I can start creating my Adobe Web Design layout. Okay, so I'm going to jump on over to Dreamweaver, and in here I'm going to choose one of Dreamweaver's layouts. So File, New, okay, and I'm going to choose a 1-column fixed centered header and footer. Right? I'm going to create an external style sheet, and I'm going to use HTML5 as my doc type. Alright, so now when I hit create, alright, let's hit desktop area and go find that folder we created. And what did we call it? Flying Orbs. Okay, there's Flying Orbs. Alright, and I'm going to change my style sheet name to be Styles. Alright, and let me define my site so that I'm pointing to my site that has what we're working on. So I'm going to start a new site here and call it Flying Orbs, and specify the location for that site. There's my Flying Orbs folder, select, save. Okay, done. So now there's my 3 images that I was working with. Okay, and there's my style sheet that I just saved. So now all I need to do is save this index.html or this HTML file, and I'll have all my assets ready to go. So let's do a file, save as, and let's say this is the home page, so I'm going to call it index. Okay. So now I'm ready to go. I have my index.html. It's linked to my style sheet, and now all I have to do is assign my images, my 3 images, one to the header section, one to the content section, and one to the body background. So looking at my CSS styles panel, I can see that one of the Adobe Dreamweaver layout that I chose has given me all kinds of styles. So the class names of the boxes, the div boxes that we're going to assign background images to, okay, are going to be the header, the content, and the body. Alright, so let's start with the header. Right? If we want to see, so let's go to the header section, and in the header section I have this image here. I don't need that image. I'm going to get rid of that image. It's not a background image, that's a placed image. There's a difference in the two. Alright, let me delete that, and so now it's just showing me this box right here, which is merely a div class equals header, and then there's a comment inside it that tells us we're ending the div tag. So it has no content in it at all. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to specify the height of this box, because when I assign images via CSS and I need a specific height for the box, I have to define it if I have no content that's going to bring me to that height. Alright, so one way to apply a CSS style to any of your class names is I can double click the dot header. Alright, and then I can go to the background category. I don't need the background color, that olive color in the header, because the image is going to fill up the entire header area. So I'm going to just delete that and go inside the background image field, hit browse, and I'm going to go into my images folder and choose my header. Right? And I'm going to notice that it's 207 pixels high. That's the height of that image. I'm going to need to know that information, so I'm going to capture it right here, right before I select this image. so that I can go add a height to that box as well via CSS. So let's click OK. Alright, the image is in there. Now let's go add the height. The height can be added in the box category. So if I go over to the box category, here's the height field. Let's put in 207. Now, if I click OK, there it is. Now let's preview what it looks like. Let's go to our little globe up here, right, and preview in Firefox. And it'll ask me to save my changes to my HTML and to my CSS. And there we go. So now here is the layout, and it's being populated with the content header image that we created previously. So now the only two things left we have to do now are place an image in there for the content header, and then place an image in that body area which has that gray background. So let's head back over to Dreamweaver, okay? And the first one we're going to do is for the content. So how do I know that where I'm applying these? Well, we kind of have to know ahead of time that our website is based in a body tag. Everything is there, and you have a header div right here. That's one box. You have a div class equals content is another box, and a div class equals footer has another box. So you have these three boxes inside this box, and I'm calling these box because Dreamweaver uses the category box for assigning widths and heights and floats and that kind of stuff. So I call them boxes. And this is all the div container is a div box with a class name container inside the body tag. So we put the image of the header inside this first box, and now we're going to put the image called content as the background image of the second box. There's no background image for the footer. And what we're going to do is in the body tag, when we put the background image of the body on the body tag, which is the entire viewing window, we're also going to place a background color. Okay, so you can assign an image and a color. So go back over to the class name content right here. Double click class content. Go to background, and let's choose the background image for content, which is, we called it content, makes it easy to find, and you can see there's that image. Now we don't have any content inside there, but as we fill in content, it should stretch this image out because we need it to be at least 603 pixels worth of content. So if we don't have that much content, we're going to have to assign a height to that content box. That's a thing you need to remember. Okay? So it's 603 now. So I can assign a height of 603 pixels, and if the content goes more, it'll just stretch it beyond that height. So that's okay. So I'm going to do that. So let's click OK. Then go to the box category and assign that height of 603. And click OK. Alright, so now if we preview this in Firefox, it'll save. And there we go. It's starting to look like it's coming together, right? We have a little bit of information down here because it's repeating, but we'll handle that later. So let's jump over to the Dreamweaver, and let's add the image around the outside. Let's assign it to the body tag, the last piece that we have here. Okay, so for the body tag, let's double click body, and in the background category, I don't need that dark gray background because we had a dark gray background before, but I do need a black background. So black is all zeros. For the RGB light scale, it's 2 digits for red, 2 digits for green, 2 digits for blue, giving you 6 digits. HTML has a shortcut that if you list 3 digits, it means repeat the first one, repeat the second one, repeat the third one. So if you had all zeros, you can put 3 zeros. If you had a color of CC99FF, then you could put C9F and it would know to repeat those values. Kind of interesting, but yeah, it's a little shortcuts. So anyways, the background color in there, go to the background image, hit browse, and let's choose the background image. Alright, I don't need to know a height because this is going to be around the outside. I don't need to force any height on this. Let's click OK. Now some of the things I do need to do is I want to make sure that this background does not repeat. So the way I should have did with the content one, which I need to go back and fix, I need to tell it not to repeat the background. Alright, so as the page gets larger, I don't want to see that background orb show up again. Also, I want to position, this one is unique because I want to position this image along the X and Y axis. So my background position along the X axis, I want it to be in the center. So that way it's always going to wrap around that 960 grid, which is currently designed via CSS to float in the middle, in the center. It's already designed that way. And we can show you that. That's done in the margin left and right of auto for the container at a fixed width. All right? So we're going to make a background position X of center and a background position Y of top to make sure it pushes itself all the way to the top of the page. All right? So now if I click OK and preview this in Firefox, save. There we go. Now all we have to do is get rid of our footer and adjust our text. We actually have a bunch of layout text inside here, but you can see that the text that we have, not only is it black text on the black, which doesn't work well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to a light color, and then also I'm going to increase the padding inside the content box so that this text will come inward. All right? So, and we can get rid of the footer. I'm going to get rid of the footer altogether. So over here we had our 3 boxes. This is the box set for the footer. I'm just going to delete that box. Okay. And also I want to set a no repeat to the background of the content. So on this class content, let's say no repeat. Okay. And that'll get rid of that piece on the bottom. Alright. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Let's go into our CSS styles panel. And we have a background color, and we also have a text color. So I need to change this text color. So in the body tag, you can see that I have a background color right here, but I want it to be a really light gray instead of a black. So I'm going to click OK on that. That should make all the text show up. And then what I'm going to do is on the content div, I'm going to double click that content class. And in the box category, there is, I'm going to add some more padding for left and right because there's not enough. So I'm going to say 35 and 35, let's say. We may have to change that. So let's click OK and preview that out in Firefox. And there we go. Okay, so now it looks like we need a lot more than that inside that content box. So what we can do is let's find out how much we need. All right, if I inspect this in Firebug, okay, and I look at that content class right here. Oh, did I not save it? Thought I did. Content. Oh, yeah, look at that. Padding left 35. Look what I did. Little error there. It should say 35 pixels. Alright, so if I go back into that class, let's see what happened. Alright. Oh, look at this. I didn't choose this little box here. So I need to make that pixels. Ah, it's good to make errors. That way you guys can look and see what not to do, right? So I click OK. All right, now if I go back and preview that in Firefox, 35 might be enough. There we go. Oh, see, now it can't. See, I thought it didn't come in very far. It's like, oh, that doesn't seem to work. So now I can go in there. In Firebug is kind of neat because I can figure out what's the nice value for that area. So in the div class content, which I can see there, and I can see the purple line that tells me the padding. I can come in here and start changing. Okay, this is top. And remember how I said elements will repeat themselves? So with padding, if you have two elements, it means the first two are top and right, and the next two would be the same thing again, bottom and left. So top and bottom of 10, right and left of 35. So if I take inside that 35 and I start increasing it, look what happens. It starts to move inward. And it looks like I need a good 110 for it to look okay. So, okay, no problem. That's just the way I designed it. I mean, I could have made it to where I wanted my text to be over the orb, but you know, it's all based on your design and what you want to see. And I'll show you something here else in a minute. So let's go to that content and let's change both of those values. I can do it right here in CSS, and as opposed to going directly back into the interface. Now that changed it right there. Padding left, padding right, 110. Save that on the style sheet and refresh, and that is all changed there. Okay, and this is the final product of what you have. So that completes our tutorial, and check it out on youtube.com/OC Digital Arts. Thanks.